Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Good evening and welcome to our show, Going Public. I'm Renee Bossica, and joining us tonight from the Terrebonne Parish School District are teacher Erica Carter and students Forrest Ellsworth, Madeline Melanson, and Abigail Straley. The Terrebonne Parish School District recently held its annual science fair. This year, the outstanding senior division school was Terrebonne High School, while the outstanding senior division teacher was Ramona Boyd. The outstanding junior division school was Houma Junior High, and the outstanding junior division teacher was Miss Erica Carter, who is also joining us tonight. Congratulations to all of you, and congratulations, Miss Erica, for winning the outstanding teacher from Houma Junior High.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the science fair for a little bit. Can you give us an overview of what takes place during the science fair project process?
So the process starts on the first day of school. I bring the kids in. I say, welcome to Honor Science. By the way, you have to do a science fair project this year. And this year's their first year. Most of them have ever done it. So we start off with the basics. I give them time to pick a topic. We do research. We go into how to develop the project and put it together. And the whole process probably takes about 2-3 months because we don't have our school science fair until November, usually right after Thanksgiving. And then the winners from that will move into district, and then anyone from district who wins will usually move to state.
And what do you enjoy the most about the science fair process?
Really just getting together with the students and having them think more about science, because they always come to you and they're like, when am I ever going to use this? That's always the biggest question. And I always think, like, with science fair, you can use it because it's something that they're interested in and just something that they really like to do. And it makes them think more about a process and how to solve a problem. And it's just a really good way for them to develop problem-solving skills and just get interested in science.
So speaking of challenges with this, what are some of the challenges you as a teacher face whenever working with the science fair?
I think the biggest thing is most of them just don't want to do it. And it's hard to encourage them to get it done, and especially since it's the first time and they really don't know what they're doing. And it's hard to guide them through and really get them to try to complete it. I mean, there are some people that just aren't going to do things, but for the most part, most every student will usually do it and get something done. And they feel rewarded at the end because they accomplished something so big.
And when they are working on their science fair, do they get to pick their own topic or do you choose for them?
They do. I allow them time to completely pick whatever they want. And then we'll kind of go through it and be like, well, maybe that's not such a good idea. But if you really like this, why don't you try to do this? So we kind of refine it as we go through and make it more their own. Because if they own it, then they're more likely to finish.
Correct. And it relates to them and what they want to do.
Right.
How well did your students do at the district science fair?
They did really well this year. I brought 10 students with me, and 9 out of the 10 placed.
Oh, that's exciting.
And then Forrest got the grand prize. So
very exciting. And how many of your students qualified this year to go to state?
7.
So
7 out of 10. We did really good.
And once the students go to state, what happens at that process?
State's pretty similar to district, except it's a lot more people. And so district's kind of like their starting point where they can kind of see what it's like to be interviewed by an adult, because most of them really haven't had questions asked of them by an adult that like they don't know. So it gives them a chance to kind of get used to being interviewed and just to talk about something that they did. So state's pretty much similar, just with more people.
With more. Well, also joining us tonight is one of your students. We have Forrest Ellsworth, who is a 7th grader from Houma Junior High. You were the Junior Division Grand Prize winner. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and your project was titled "Do Parks Have Greater Bird Diversity and Abundance Than Adjacent Neighborhoods?" I think they're going to go ahead and show it right now. Can you give us a description of your project?
Well, as most people, I love to go to parks with my family, and I was just wondering, do parks really influence birds? Do birds really like parks more than neighborhoods? And so I tested this out, and my results were that yes, they do. And except one exception. The Bayou Black Park was a great habitat, but also the Bayou Black neighborhood. It was a great habitat for birds. And I believe this, the birds really do, that it matters how the neighborhoods and parks are built, because the park, how it was built, it had all the parks had trees, shrubs, bushes, and the neighborhood that was good, the Bayou Black neighborhood, it had all those good things too.
And so what led you to come up with your science fair question?
I was just, every time I went with my family, we would always find more birds in the park areas. We'd find some in the neighborhoods, but mostly in the parks. And so I was like, do they really like parks more than neighborhoods? And that led me to come up with my project.
Very neat. That is exciting. We're going to go ahead and go over to Miss Madeline Melanson, who is a 9th grader from Terrebonne High School, who is the Senior Division Grand Prize runner-up. Madeline, your project was titled your category was Sustainable Materials and Design. Your project was, Is Your Clothing Really That Safe?
Yes.
So this one also sounds interesting. Can you give us a description of your project?
I burned 11 different clothing materials to test which ones are the most fire resistant. That's really important because people who work in fire industries really need to know what's going to protect them the most. It's also really good for babies. You need to know what you want to dress your children in to make sure they're safe.
So what led you to come up with your science fair question?
My dad was a huge inspiration because he's a firefighter and he's always educated me about fire since I was a little kid. And it kind of just went from there. We brainstormed and that's kind of just happened.
And then throughout the project, you had to have a little help, I'm sure. Who helped you throughout this process?
My mom, dad, and little brother.
So you had the family involved with yours.
Yes.
If you had to change one part of your project, what would you change?
I really did like my project, but if I did change one thing, I would maybe test the 3 different trials at different heats to see if that led to a greater reaction or if they burned quicker.
And how can your findings of your project be applied to the real world?
Referring back to the first question, it's really important to know what clothing materials are the most fire resistant, especially with children if you work in an area with fire or just if you're around fire a lot.
So what were your results?
Cotton, as for normal clothing, is one of the most safe. And we tested 3 clothing materials used in firefighter gear: Kevlar, Nomex, and 10K Ultra. Those 3 were obviously the most safe, but we tested them to prove why they're used in firefighter gear. They had the least reactions.
I like that. Very nice. Also tonight we have Miss Abigail Straley, who is an 11th grader also from Terrebonne High School, who is our Senior Division Grand Prize winner. Abigail, your project was titled Sharks in the Bayou. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you go ahead and give us a description of your project?
So in my project, I tested the rate of saltwater intrusion from the Gulf of Mexico into our own local bayous, Dulac and Dularge.
And so what led you to come up with your science fair process?
So in New Orleans recently, they actually had to shut down their water supply because there was salt in their drinking water. So that led me to wonder, is this happening in our local bayous? So I did my research and I tested the question.
And I know we briefly talked about yours a little beforehand. Who helped you throughout the process of your project?
So my mom actually took me drive down the bayous every weekend, and my dad helped me come up with the idea because he does work on offshore boats, and it was just, yeah, they helped me a lot.
And if you had to change one part of your project, what would you change?
So I, like how Madeline said, I do love my project, but if I were to change it, I would probably go for more weeks because I did have a big data set with 6 weeks, but I feel like this is such a big issue. You need way more data to actually learn stuff about our bayous. So,
And what was the hardest part of your project?
my hardest part for my project would probably just be determined and like waking up every morning going at 12 a.m. because I had a consistent time of 12 a.m. So every Saturday morning I woke up and then had to go over there. And it was just being consistent and going.
You definitely were dedicated. That's some
Yes,
dedication
ma'am.
for 6 weeks. How can your findings be applied in the real world?
So my findings could be especially like good for Louisiana because 2.5 billion of our economy revenue was from fishing, like all like to do with the bayous. So from seafood alone, it's very important to know about our ecosystem in Louisiana and how it's changing and how we need to keep up with it to stop the change.
And with your project, can you grow or build on it, or do you plan to change it up any?
So right now, during my project, I didn't have enough time to track other environmental factors like rain, tides, but right now, for planning on going to internationals, I'm looking back and I'm collecting all that data and adding it into my project.
So you just mentioned the International Science Fair, and both Madeline and Abigail get to go to the International Science Fair in Los Angeles in May. What are you both looking most forward to with going to the International Science Fair? Madeline?
I'm looking forward to just meeting people from all around the world and finding out about other people's cultures and seeing like how they live, because we live in such a different society as everyone else does.
Well, good luck to you. And Abigail, what are you looking forward to the most with the science fair?
I'm looking forward to meeting people, like she said, around the world. Like, that's very cool. I've never really met other people from other countries. And talking to specialists who, like, learn about this, like, as their job. Like, they are educated and doctorates in this subject. So I'm really excited to talk to them about my own issues.
Well, it looks like our time is up. I want to personally congratulate all of you on winning at the science fair, and good luck to those who are attending the International Science Fair. I would like to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Don't forget to join us every week on Going Public. Good night.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.